Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. For those of you who did not watch our last video or join our previous session, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Safiatou Modisek. I'm a graduate student at the GSIS Department of Iwa Women's University, majoring in international relations. I'm also part of this 2022 conference organizing committee, and I will be today's session moderator. So for those of you watching us, welcome. I would like to introduce today's presenter. So Ricky is an inspiring and conscientious youth leader with a strong background in team development and a strong passion for community development also. He finished his internship program at the Senate of the Philippines in February 2021. He's the founder and project head of Education Outside the Walls, if I'm not mistaken. And he's also a youth-led organization that is a youth-led organization that champions inclusive quality education. So currently, he serves as the online educator co-director of the ASEAN Australia Youth Strategic Partnership, called also AASYP. So the leading organization for promoting partnership between Association of Southeast Asian Nations and Australian youth. So hi, Ricky, and welcome. So my first question to you will be, can you tell us a bit about the Model UNSF and also your position so we can all get to know you?
Yeah, sure. But before that, thank you for the introduction. I really like it. Model UNICEF, well, for me, it serves as an avenue for agents of change across the globe to, discuss things or issues regarding the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development in reference to human rights issues in the DPRK, or what we know as North Korea. So as a representative of the DPRK, Republic of Korea, or a UN agency, and a resident coordinator, all participants are encouraged to, craft sustainable solutions to address multiple and complex developmental challenges in North Korea. And for this year's conference, I am part of the administrative team, and I will serve as the secretariat. Yeah, I think you are muted.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. As I was saying, so in the last session we had with Shirin, we had a very interesting talk about the strategic priority 1, precisely food and nutrition security. So today in this session, we will address the strategic priority 2, mostly related to social development services, which is one of the 4 main strategic focus in the DPRK document. So we will be delighted if you could introduce more in detail the strategic priority 2 and explain the importance of this strategic priority and also his key elements.
Yeah, all right, so that's a lot to process, but let me give it a try. Okay, so SP2 mainly focuses on 3 major elements, namely education, health, and WASH, or the water, sanitation, and hygiene. So the concerned UN agencies are WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA, and UNESCO. And then let's first go over the sector of education. So in terms of education, the DPRK, before I go over that, just a disclaimer that all the information I'm gonna be telling you right now will be based on the VNR So if you feel like this is not really what's happening in North Korea, you might want to refer to that document. I think that's so important to mention. Anyway, going back to what I was saying. So in terms of the education sector, the DPRK has a well-developed countrywide infrastructure allowed for free and nearly universal primary and secondary education enrollment up to the 12th year. So it also includes gender equality. However, the problem is that there is a lack of equitable access for persons with disabilities. So that's going to be the major problem. And then going forward to the health sector, it has a similarly extensive infrastructure, even down to the village level, where community doctors have an average ratio of 1:130 and 1:150 households rather. However, it is hampered by a lack of basic equipment and supplies. So aside from the training for health professionals, the United Nations should continue, providing technical assistance and training throughout the health system. And its major focus will remain on sustaining the primary healthcare system while improving the quality of its services. So lastly, the WASH, although progress in the WASH sector has been made, there's still a big disparity, particularly in access to and the quality of sanitation facilities. So while 77% of households have access to piped water, just roughly 50% of schools, health facilities, and nurseries have, with the proportion for nurseries being 62. So it's going to be a lot of problem. And in addition to that, an estimated 20% of the population lacks access to basic sanitary facilities, as well as other waste management issues. So we can see from the information that I shared the urgency and importance of improving the social development services in North Korea. As we try to transition to what we call as the new normal, I feel like we need to prioritize the needs of the vulnerable sectors and making decisions. We need to humanize our policies and programs, even our initiatives. And we can do that by expediting our efforts in improving the government's social services. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you very much did. So as you mentioned, so this thematic focus area comprises three distinct elements, such as education, health, water, sanitation, and hygiene with the WASH initiative. So it seems to remain a strategic priority for the UN in the country. And the principal concerned UN agencies who are WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA, and UNESCO. So they are said to seek to sustain their programs of support while trying to adjust to their targets to reflect, kind of updated situation analysis. So could you share with us your analysis of the priorities and achievement of the DPRK on the issue regarding goals 3, 4, and 9? I'm asking this question because we realize that the SP2, which we are talking about, is really much related to the goals 3, 9, 4, and 3 of the Agenda 2030.
Yeah, sure. So I will not delve deeper into each goal since it will really take us a lot of time to discuss it. I mean, 20 minutes will not be enough. But for my analysis, it's good that the statistics are really getting better despite the prevailing challenges. For example, maternal mortality has been declining, as well as the mortality or the infant mortality rate. However, I think the good question would be, how sure are we that these statistics or these progress or these developments are really, happening in North Korea, I mean, I can say on paper that, oh, my country is getting better, right? But the truth is not. I mean, I think you can see the logic behind it. So although it's good to be more specific when it comes to discussing these goals, but we will always go to discussing how these statistics are produced, or do the methodologies really or did these facts undergo a lot of checking? Do you get what I mean? I mean, it's hard to explain it in a nutshell, but I feel like the concerned UN institutions should work more closely with local communities so that these progress regarding goals 3, 4, and 9 are secured, and everyone will be more than happy to know that this is not just written on paper. This is really what's happening in North Korea.
Thank you very much for sharing your analysis on this issue. So if I understand, during the Model United Nations conference, so each group will consist of one resident coordinator, one delegate, each from North and South Korea, and one delegate, each from the 6 UN institutions that we just mentioned previously. Just a reminder: WHO, WFP, FAO, UNICEF, UNDP, and UNFPA. So can you explain to us why the choice of this institution particularly?
All right, sure. So they were the institutions that operated in the making of the previous strategic framework. And we don't have an idea about the list of UN institutions that will be joining the making of the next strategic framework. So that's why we have these 6 UN institutions. Also, it's important to note the reason why we included an ROK delegate, because we think that it's so important for the Republic of Korea to take part in these issues.
Thank you very much. So also I had one question. So which possible strategic key actions should this specific key institution focus on for better implementation of the strategic priority 2 in the DPRK future SDGs plan?
Okay, so these 6 institutions are expected to achieve a lot of outcomes in the next, in the context rather of SB2. So they need to work hand in hand to provide a sustained and equitable universal health coverage with a focus on primary health care, particularly for the most vulnerable and those living in far-flung areas. They also need to improve services for treating communicable and non-communicable diseases, maternal and childhood diseases, particularly those affecting vulnerable women and children. In addition to that, they need to strengthen health emergency preparedness and response capacity, especially when it comes to disaster risk management. And they need to implement WASH coverage that is well coordinated, equitable, and sustainable in families, educational institutions, and healthcare facilities, particularly in the most underserved. Lastly, they need to provide quality and equitable education, including technical and vocational education and training for all.
Thank you very much. I also think that the importance and the value of these UN agencies will be very much seen when we will when they will craft their solution. So what should these UN agencies need to consider when crafting their solution?
Yeah, all right, good question. You know what? I think we've been dealing with these issues, with these developmental challenges for years, and although we can see, you know, a small progress, I feel like it's not enough. Maybe there is something that they need to take into account, and I think that one thing that they need to consider is their approach. So this is what I learned in my uni and in my degree program. So since we are talking about complex and systemic problems, their approach needs to be holistic. So they need to consider not only economic factors, but also non-economic factors like culture of the people. I mean, they need to assess whether their solutions are culturally appropriate, right? So because they will, if you promulgate or implement a policy to address a certain issue or a certain problem, they or local communities might not abide to it, might not follow it because it's not culturally appropriate. So they need to consider that, right? And in addition to that, their solutions must be data-driven and scientific-based, because they can't just create policies or programs just because they want to do so, because they need to have a good foundation, right, in order to make those solutions or initiatives successful.
Thank you very much. Just to come back a bit to the Model UNSF conference, I had a question regarding that. So to what extent do you consider the added value of the Model UNSF conference to be the realization of a strategic framework?
Okay, so we have a very diverse set of participants, even the organizing committee, right? We come from different countries, and that's the good thing about it. I mean, one more thing that we need to see here is that perspectives, the diversity of perspectives and ideas is very, very important. And I think diversity in Model UNICEF could be the added value of the to be the realization of a strategic framework. But the challenge now is, or would be, how are they going to use diversity as their strengths and advantage in crafting solutions or sustainable solutions for each strategic priority?
Thank you very much. Just to come back to you a little bit, I did introduce you at the beginning, but I think the audience and me will very much appreciate to get to know you better. So my first question and personal question will be, what is the SDG that you are really passionate about?
Okay, so I love this question. So all SDGs are important, but I feel like I can contribute more to achieving SDG 4, which is quality education for all. I love learning anything. And the perspectives that I have right now are rooted in my education. And I think you can agree to that. So if everyone, is given the same opportunity to have that quality education, they can be more, right? And they can contribute more to their communities. So I'll go for SDG 4.
Thank you. Why did you also join the organizing committee of the Model UNSF conference?
Okay, so I started attending and participating to various international conferences and joining organizations. So these experiences allowed me to see the world from different perspectives. For example, let's say in your country, or in Korea or in Australia, whatever, they address environmental degradation this way. And here in my country, the Philippines, we address it this way in a different manner. So it's like having the chance to learn from each other's best practices. Hence, I joined the organizing committee to expose myself to different perspectives since we come from different countries, right? So, and I like to meet new people and just know them and talk to them.
Thank you very much. Do you have any tips or advice for the participants of this conference, mainly the delegates?
Okay, so for those who have a lot of experience in MUN conferences, Model UNICEF will be a game changer for you since there are some or a few modifications when it comes to the execution. That's why the challenge for them is how are they going to adapt to these changes during the conference. And they can do that by understanding their roles as well as their responsibilities. They already have the documents, you just have to go over that and really understand each rule. And for those who are first timers, aside from being prepared, I'd say that don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone and don't be afraid to commit mistakes since it's gonna be part of your journey in this conference, especially if you're a first timer, right? And also, because they might tend to not speak during the conference because they are afraid to, commit mistakes because this is a new arena for them. Don't think that way because it's a new learning experience for you. So just enjoy it, right? And enjoy it and just give it a try. Do your best.
Thank you very much for these motivating words. I think we are at the end of this interview, this session. So do you have any final words for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So for those who are listening to us, I know that it's a really tough time for everybody. It's really hard to, get involved or partake in addressing these issues in our communities. Poverty, hunger, gender equality. It's really hard to just even go out there, right? So, and it's also the time when we tend to get demotivated because of what's happening around us. But always find opportunities to be of help to others. And don't ever give a blind eye to what's happening around us. Always speak up for those who are silenced if you can.
Thank you very much, Ricky. So thank you again, Ricky. We've come to the end of this webinar, this interview. Just a small reminder for those watching us, you can follow us on the Model UNICEF social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the Peace Corps also YouTube platform. So we are looking forward to see everyone at the conference. Please follow us for updates on the Model UNICEF 2002 conference. Thank you again, Ricky, and thank you everyone for watching us. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.